Here is a Waykar dehumidifier, model PD160B. The reason why I got this is because I saw one in the wild recently. Seemed fairly quiet, seemed to work pretty well. But the reason for the purchase was that it had refrigerant 134 in it, which is almost unheard of at this point. Almost everything is exclusively refrigerant 410 or refrigerant 32 at this point. So to see something with 134 is very unusual. I almost exclusively use vintage when it comes to refrigeration equipment, air conditioners, dehumidifiers. For whatever reason, out of all modern appliances that we've seen go downhill in the last 10-20 years, dehumidifiers are consistently the worst. They are just so cheap and so abysmal. They're loud, they catch on fire, they leak the charge in a year or two. They're just awful, and it's consistent across so many brands and so many models. All the refrigeration stuff is not what it should be anymore, but you know, like I can't remember the last time I heard of a refrigerator leaking a charge in a year or an air conditioner catching on fire. It's definitely, dehumidifiers in particular are just an atrocity. So I really just stay away from modern dehumidifiers. I tend to think that using a low pressure refrigerant like 134 would allow the device to have a much longer lifespan, because the cheap thin coils that they put in the new units to make them lightweight just are not strong enough to withstand the pressures of 32 or 410. This probably uses a similar cheap coil, but if you're talking about a refrigerant that's less than half the pressure, perhaps it'll last a while. If not, then, well, oh well, that would be super surprised, but perhaps it will. I did read through the Amazon reviews briefly, and those of course need to be taken with like the entire shaker of salt, because usually you have, it's positive reviews are like paid for or written by people that work for the company or enticed somehow, and then you have the negative reviews, which are a lot of times people just using the product wrong or having completely unrealistic expectations of what the product would do or can do or should do. And so you can kind of scratch off most of the positive reviews and most of the negative reviews, and very seldom is there much in between. This had over 15,000 reviews, and I think almost 75% of them were 5 stars. Now, they probably will buy, I've seen this all the time, these cheap Chinese companies will buy reviews in the sense where they just give the product out for free and change for a review, but they're probably not going to fudge 15,000 reviews. They wouldn't make any money doing that. So when you get to that kind of number of reviews, I tend to start to trust them a little bit, in the sense that it's probably a decent product. And then the 1-star reviews is only like 3 or 5%. It was very, very small. So I tend to think that this thing may actually be a decent modern dehumidifier. Of course, time will tell how long it lasts, but who knows? Warning: keep all plastic bags away from children. Important notice for first-time use. Only store, this is great. This is phenomenal. Only store upper tooth. Please let unit sit in the upright position for 24 hours before plugging it in. The reason for that is so that the oil can sit back into the bottom of the compressor and not be all throughout the system. I think 24 hours is a bit excessive. I've let it sit upright for 5 hours maybe. Long enough that most of the oil is back where it should be. I can't wait to see the instruction manual if there's already that much Chinglish on the top of the box. There was some comments in the reviews about the customer service, and by and large, people were satisfied and they made issues right. Well, let's go ahead and open this thing up. It's not super heavy, but it does have some weight to it. It's kind of a nice no-frills box. A lot of the product boxes today are coated in this shiny ink, and it's got pictures and all this stuff on there, but none of that's really necessary. It doesn't serve much purpose to the product other than just be flashy junk that ends up in the landfill for no reason. So a basic box like this is fine with me. In fact, I prefer it. So inside here we have the instruction manual, which I suspect is comedy gold. I cannot wait to read that. Power cord, and that styrofoam, which I don't like, but at least it's a very small piece. It comes with a continuous drain hose, which is very, very cheap and very short, but it's a hose. I don't think water's going to leak through it. It doesn't, it'll probably work just fine. Will it stay put? It'll probably coil up. I need to take it out of the thing here. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to keep coiling back up. They shouldn't have put it in that small of a box, so you have to do something to hold this in place, but ultimately it's there, and with a little bit of finagling it'll work. Looks like it's just a bunch of short hoses joined together or something. Who knows? So we're not going to use this just yet. I'm going to use the bucket for now. That comes right off easily. The plug is a standard 3-prong grounded plug. No funny stuff on there. No GFIs, no fuses. Just a basic plug. Got a little protector thing on the end. Now let's take a look at the specifications here, which was the most intriguing aspect of this unit to me. This is the Waykar dehumidifier model PD160B or 8, I don't know what it says. Only pulls 2 amps, which is very little power. And it's got some moisture removal information, which I like the way it's laid out because it's not confusing. It's just very straightforward. It tells you what it'll do at what temperature and humidity. So I don't know what the standard rating is that they rate these things at. I'm sure it's some condition that would never exist in a basement, like 95 degrees at 110-50 million% humidity, or something just ridiculous. But this actually gives you reasonable measurements that you can relate to and get an idea of how the unit's going to perform. There's nothing confusing or deceiving about that information. And then we have the current, input current, the how much power it's going to draw at a given temperature, which of course the power draw will probably go up as the temperature goes up because the head pressure will go up. Motor is 0.18 amps, so it's a capacitor motor, of course. And look at that, refrigerant 134A. Not much of it, only 3.8 ounces, but it's there. It's a low pressure refrigerant, not flammable, not explosive. And look at those ratings for the pressure. 1.7 megapascals on the high side and 0.7 megapascals on the low side. Very, very low pressure, which is totally reasonable. And it was made recently in June of 2022 or in September, so it's only a few months old, so they absolutely are still making these with refrigerant 134. Now again, this thing could quit next week. I have no idea, but just was really intrigued by the fact that it has 134 in it. So this, I believe, is the drain plug for the continuous drain. Probably some comical stuff on there. Let's see what it says. When choosing water tank drain, rubber plug must block the continuous drain outlet. When choosing continuous drainage, the rubber plug must block the water drain of the tank. The water pipe and outlet should be more than 10 centimeters lower than the continuous outlet. Okay. Example of error connection. Example of error connection. That's a pretty reasonable grammar on there. Filter come out pretty easy. Just a basic screen filter. These aren't super effective. They just keep big particles out. Well, certainly still get dirty with those in there. The bucket is ridiculously small. I mean, that's going to fill up in a couple of hours if it's really humid. And the old ones were 3 times the size of that. It's got stinking Digitan controls, which I don't like. But I'll take Digitan controls with a decent refrigerant over trash refrigerant with mechanical controls. Attention! Please ensure the air outlet is fully open before operating the machine. Okay. Now it's got a basic blower wheel fan in there. Pretty typical. It's moderately damp today. Actually, this weather is pretty good for dehumidifiers because it's high 70s in here with 60 something percent, but it's cold out. It's only in the 60s, so don't want to turn the air conditioner on. So this is the right equipment for the application. Alright, just plugged it in. We got some stupid beeps. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Nearly silent compressor. So it gives you both the relative humidity and the temperature on the unit. That's the low fan speed. Oh no, that was the high fan speed. This is the low fan speed. And that is super quiet. It only goes down to 30%, but I really can't fathom a situation where you need to run it below 30%. I mean, that's ridiculous. And 45 is really as low as I would ever run something like this. That is super quiet. By far the quietest dehumidifier I've ever heard. That even beats out the vintage ones as far as noise level is concerned. It's completely unobtrusive, inaudible over a conversation. I mean, it's near silent. The air is starting to heat up. You can hear the compressor, but it's super, super quiet. That is really impressive. Well, I'll let the thing run for a little while, get the head pressure up, and then we'll come back on the video once it's been running for a little while. It's been running for a few minutes now. The compressor has become slightly more audible as the head pressure is built, but it's still very quiet. That warmer air coming out of there now. I'm just thoroughly impressed by the noise level. Very, very quiet machine. I would be shocked if there is a reciprocating compressor in there, but it sounds very much to me like a small little refrigerator compressor. It's probably a rotary, but I don't know. I'll tear it apart someday and take a look inside and see what the components look like, but for now, I am thoroughly impressed. It seems like China managed to make a halfway decent dehumidifier. Hopefully it lasts a while. I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't, because coils shouldn't leak using a nice low pressure refrigerant.